Hey, wow, what a busy morning. I want to thank Susan Hudson, the Independent Police Monitor, for being with us in the last segment. Also, Kevin Martin from Project 21, as we've been discussing this Ferguson incident, the, of course, grand jury decision, the riots, and what is happening here from a lot of different angles. And Susan talked about some of her work here in New Orleans. Joining us now, a ringside all-star who checks in with us on Tuesdays. He's a publisher of Bayoubuzz.com. His name is Steve Sabludowsky, and welcome aboard, Steve.
Hey, Jeff, and how you doing today?
Hey, busy morning. Lots going on. Doing great. How are you? How's everything at Bayoubuzz?
Doing fine, doing fine. We're recovering from last night's football game.
Oh, right. Right.
I think they call it football, but
Another loss. Just tough to take. I'll tell you, 3 in a row. Not good at home. Hey, Steve, before we get into Ferguson, I know wanted to talk about that. Let's talk about the Senate race if we could. Final days here. Got the holiday in between, so it's really a strange sort of a situation. What's your take on how things are going?
Just like last week, I mean, I don't think there's any difference. I don't think that Mary Landrieu has made any real progress in this race, and so I think that you're looking at probably about 10 to 20 point difference at this point in time.
Some are speculating the Democrats have abandoned her.
Yeah, I definitely would say that. For sure. I certainly think they abandoned her last week on the Senate floor, and so I think she did very well in terms of getting one vote away from getting it passed. But it's still a loss, and so for her it doesn't look good, and she is getting some money coming in, but if you can't get on TV enough, and even if you can, you have to have a message, and I'm not so sure she has a message at this point in time. I don't think it's resonating.
It seems she's being outspent big time. Would you agree? I mean, most of the commercials I see are Cassidy or groups supporting Cassidy.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I have. Yeah. I mean, definitely. I mean, I think that she has a fundraiser going on. I think Stevie Wonder is going to be coming in on her behalf. I think I read that she's going up to New York for a fundraiser with Hillary Clinton, or she has gone up to New York. I don't recall. So I do think she's getting some of the money, but I think that when the Senate Democrat committee decided to withhold that money, I think that was a real knife in the back to her. Mm-hmm. So I think she could have made it a lot more competitive. She didn't do as well as she should have done, I think, in the at least the last during the election. But she still was ahead. She wasn't behind by 20 points or 10 points, and so we have to wait and see. Now she has to just get out the votes, and I just don't see how it's going to happen.
Well, she's legendary for getting at the votes, and she's got a big operation. I mean, her campaign organization is certainly tried, tested, experienced. So you would think she does pretty well at getting her base out, and we'll just see if she's able to pull off an incredible upset. I know Cassidy is campaigning today. I'm going to try to see the event that they're doing on the North Shore with Texas Governor Rick Perry, bringing in some Republican heavy hitters.
Sure, and that's the other thing. I mean, I'm not sure, what heavy hitters. I mean, certainly no, say, presidential candidates other than Clinton from before. I think they have a upcoming, or at least a current U.S. senator from New Jersey coming in, but I don't see that. I mean, he doesn't have the swagger or the stroke that Perry has, and so I just don't see it. And in terms of look, the Democratic Party is not what it was. Yeah, and so yeah, Mary Landrieu, had an organization, has a base. But I mean, when the governor, lieutenant governor, the secretary of state, insurance commissioner, when the majority in the House and Senate or Republicans, it's you don't have that infrastructure at
I
all.
also read, Steve, where the Louisiana Democratic Party is laying off people. So
Yeah.
at a time where you would think they'd be ramping up, would be bringing on more personnel, they're letting people go, which again is another bad sign.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, it's a collapse. Now they say that it's not going to make a difference, but I don't believe that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't see it. I don't see where the difference is right now. So unless they can really get out the vote, and that's a big if, and unless say Cassie's people for some reason think he's a snoozer and don't go out there to vote.
That's always a big concern. Overconfidence, complacency. Look at Eric Cantor. I mean, he was 25 points ahead. He went to sleep in the final few weeks, and he was overtaken by a Tea Party guy who just had more enthusiasm, no money. And that's an example of what can happen to a complacent campaign.
Yeah, but that's not going to happen here. I mean, the thing is that I don't think it's going to happen here. The thing is that you have a groundswell of people. The real activity is going on in the Cassidy camp. The emotions. I mean, you could tell from the call list on your show. The emotions are very strong. The emotions on the other side are not. And that's where the difference is. Now, you can have a situation that could combust. I mean, certainly you could have a situation, theoretically speaking, a Ferguson type situation where emotions really all of a sudden become inflamed. But I don't see that happening, and hopefully it won't happen.
You think after this loss, if it happens like we think it might happen, the Louisiana Democratic Party needs to do some soul searching about their future here in Louisiana?
Oh, sure, absolutely. Just as Republican Party had to do some soul searching after losing to Kathleen Blanco, and certainly some of the other races. Sure, absolutely. When John Breaux won, I mean, he was losing until the very end. And but the Republicans, whether you accept it or not, I mean, there was a purging of the rolls, or at least that's what the argument was, and so it was a lot of soul searching after Treen. So yeah, I think that anytime that you have a groundswell, anytime you have almost a revolution, which is what you have in the Deep South here. You have a revolution. It's something I wrote last week after, say, Landrieu was not able to prevail in the U.S. Senate. Basically, this is a reaction. I mean, it's no, you don't have to be a brilliant scientist, political scientist to recognize this, but this is not, I mean, this is, Obama has done more harm, whether intended or not, or whether the policies are wrong or right. He's done more harm to the South in terms of the Democrats for the South than anybody could have hoped or expected. And so, it's just no small wonder that Mary Landrieu is suffering from it. And then on top of that, when her voting, now I'm not saying that her bringing home bacon, because I think that's very important. Very important. I know that you don't, but when her voting
Right.
is consistent with that of President Obama and that against the whites in Louisiana, then it's harder for her, much harder for her, to be able to win.
And thus she got 18% of the white vote, which I think has got to be a historic low for her, and
Sure.
got to be a historic low for anybody in the Landrieu family, I would think. 504-556-9696. All right, we have time for one more call before the end of our first segment here, and let's go to our friend James in Metairie. All right, James, good morning, sir.
Jeff, good morning to you and to Steve. If you guys check your calendars, today's November the 25th, folks. That means 1 month from today, is Christmas. And it's going to be a big Christmas present for Bill Cassidy because he will be, barring some just unforeseen circumstance, he'll be the new U.S. Senator because that's what the majority white conservative males and females of the state want. They want to get rid of any person who is connected in any fashion or form to this black president, Barack Obama. And if you don't think that's a factor, then your head really is in the sand. Steve, what's been troubling to me, Jeff mentioned about, oh, by the way, Jeff, I received a robocall yesterday, and it said, "Hi, I'm Rob Natus, and there's only one thing that I hate more than politicians. It's robocalls." Well, excuse me, Colonel, but you were a politician, despite your ignorant denials. So I guess he hates himself, Jeff.
So what kind of robocall was he doing?
It was for this Tea Party Patriots Citizens Fund or something for Cassidy.
Oh, okay, it was a fundraiser?
Oh, no. It was a robocall asking people to vote, because he was in the election to vote for Cassidy.
Oh, okay.
And it was sponsored by the Tea Party Patriots Citizens Fund.
Gotcha.
Jenny Beth Martin, you probably
Tea Party Patriots, sure. I've had her on the program. Mm-hmm.
Tea Party Patriots Citizens Fund. I guess that's their PAC.
Right.
Anyway, so that's what Rob Manus is doing. Oh, I had another one, Jeff. You'd be interested in this, I hope. Some guy called robocall over the weekend, and it said, "Early voting is starting. If you go down and early vote, guess what? Your name is removed from robocall list, so you won't get any more robocalls." Now, I think that's a lie. I don't think that's monitored.
I've never heard that before.
Well, that's what the guy, that's what the call said. Yeah, it's another trick. But Steve, you say you listen to the program, and what's been disturbing to me is to hear some of these white conservative males talk about bringing down the government, essentially, anarchy, open rebellion, open armed rebellion. And some despicable clown the other day said they need to have the military go and arrest the President of the United States. Well, look, I'm sure, I'm just guessing, okay? A lot of, people say, "James, why do you talk about David Duke?" Well, the reason why I talk about Duke.
All right, well, you can't talk right now because we're up against a break, but we'll come back. Hang on with us. More with Steve Sabludowsky, more of your calls. It's Ringside on WGSO.
Ken Trahan's original Prep Football Report on WGSO 990 AM New Orleans.
This is the Blaze Radio News. I'm John DeMaster. In Ferguson, Missouri, tallying up the damage after overnight violence called worse than what was seen in August. The Blaze Radio's Chris Barnes with the details.
St. Louis County Police say at least 61 people arrested in Ferguson, and St. Louis Mayor Francis Slay says 21 people arrested there after the announcement comes that no charges are being filed against Officer Darren Wilson for Michael Brown's death. In Ferguson, more than a dozen businesses burned to the ground by protesters.
We definitely have done something here that is going to impact our community for a long time and impact our region.
That's Missouri Highway Patrol Captain Ron Johnson.
That's not how we create change. Change is created through our voice and not through destruction of our community.
I'm Chris Barnes, the Blaze News.
A friend of Darren Wilson defending the process that'll keep Wilson from going on trial. Jeff Ruda of the St. Louis Policemen's Association saying Wilson responding to an urgent call the day of the Michael Brown shooting.
An African-American baby who was gravely ill and it wasn't his area. He responded because, he's there to serve that community.
Ruda telling Fox News when Wilson sees Brown and a companion walking in the street, he tries doing his job with tragic results. His fellow officer also defending the grand jury process that ultimately decides Wilson shouldn't face a trial. There's a change in leadership coming at the Pentagon. The Blaze Radio's Ken Stevens reports.
President Obama praising Chuck Hagel's tenure as defense secretary. The president announcing Hagel's resignation and calling him a great friend. But conservative commentator Charles Krauthammer doesn't think Hagel is leaving willingly.
The irony is that he got tossed in the end, thrown under the bus, because he actually sort of woke up, spoke out, and spoke the truth on the fact that the Syria policy was entirely incoherent.
Krauthammer on Fox's Special Reports.
This is news on the Blaze Radio Network. Truth lives here.
Alex Jones. As pro-Russian forces battle in cities across the eastern area of that nation with the NATO, EU-backed government forces who were freedom fighters a few months ago when they were overthrowing the elected government. Now, anyone not rolling over and being enslaved by them is being called a terrorist by the U.S. and European media.
Alex Jones.
Sundays at 7 p.m. on WGSO.
Hi, it's Marcel Lashover. I need your support to help Dawn Buster Kiwanis hit their goal of 800 Cajun fried turkeys this Thanksgiving. This is the world's largest turkey fry. They do a lot for the local community and kids. They're only $47 each, or buy 10 or more and get them for $42 each. Call my office at 504-708-1300 or go to my website, www.showmethemoneyshow.co for more info, but order yours today before they're all gone.
Ringside Politics for the Punch is like a box of chocolates. You never know when you'll get a nut. Give Ringside Politics for the Punch and Jeff Crouere a call now at 556-9696.
Hey, welcome back. Jeff Crouere here. It's Ringside WGSO, 990 AM, WGSO.com. And we're joined as we are every week by Steve Sabludowsky, a publisher of Bayoubuzz.com. You can check out our interview, of course, on WGSO, 990 AM, WGSO.com, or Bayoubuzz.com via Google Hangout. And Steve, looks like we have a little bit of an echo again here on the audio, so maybe you can adjust that possibly.
Wow.
Wanted to give our friend James a chance here to conclude his comments. And James, welcome back, sir.
Well, thanks, Jeff. Yeah, my comments were these. As watching it last night, the thought that occurred to me is that this is very, very troubling to see open, armed rebellion in the streets of America. You know, some of these people, these white male conservatives, some of them, a limited number, are calling for open, armed rebellion. Folks, if you didn't like what you saw last night, are you going to like it when your type of people are in the streets rioting and shooting at the police, who were the first line of defense against lawlessness?
So
this is crazy, Jeff. What we're seeing, you know, we know you hate Obama and you want to get rid of Obama, but there's a process to do it. It's called elections. You know, the ballot box, not the cartridge box, as they say. And as far as I'm concerned, Jeff.
Well, one interesting thing is, James, we just had an election and he was repudiated. Too bad he didn't get the message, James. He totally rejected the voters.
I agree, Jeff. And the only thing I can say about that, yes, it was not good for the Democrats and Obama's administration. But you know, remember, 43% of those eligible voted in that election. The general election in 2 years, it's going to be different. But let me just say, I'll close with this.
We always have a percentage of people that don't vote.
I will close with this, Jeff.
All right.
These people are advocating armed rebellion against the United States of America. And implicit in that is shooting and killing U.S. military personnel. Okay, Jeff?
I've never heard anybody but you say that, James.
Jeff, these are evil people. Okay?
All right, that's your point of view. Appreciate it. That's James in Metairie. Our talk line, 504-556-9696. Steve, if we could segue to the Ferguson incident, wanted to get your thoughts on the decision. You're an attorney. I'm very interested to get your thoughts on what the grand jury decided, how the DA there handled it, and, of course, the aftermath with the looting and all the rioting there in Ferguson.
Before doing that, if you don't mind, allow me to at least respond to what James said, and that is that I agree with a lot of what he said, and that is that, I mean, these are things I hear, these are things I read, and it's coming from a lot of really angry people, and I think it's upsetting. I mean, I think it was very upsetting, for an example, when you had that jackass out of, I think, Colorado, I think it was, who was, taking on the federal government. He owed money, and yet, Fox News and everybody was making out a hero. And the threats against, the feds, because he didn't recognize federal, the feds as being, the law. I think that's sad. I think that's real sad. And that's, when I see that, okay, and I see what's going on in Ferguson, to me, there's a lot of parallel. Yeah, there's, maybe there's violence in one and no violence in the other.
Right.
But you have to have respect for the law. No, but you have to have respect for the law.
Yeah.
Okay, regardless. And so I respect this decision that from in Ferguson. I think that I was in the grand jury. It's something I've always said. If I'm not in the courtroom, I'm not in a jury. I'm not going to substitute my opinion. I may have a different opinion, but I'm certainly not going to say that they're wrong. I may say, hey, based on the information I have, I disagree. But I'm not going to say that they're wrong, and I disagree. I think Obama did a good job last night when he came on. I think that he was trying to soothe the passions of those people. At the same time, look, he was saying recognize that this is the law. You can't. You weren't there. These were maybe he wasn't as emotional as one side would want him to be. And maybe he is too professorial, but the thing is that he did say, look at the parents, look at the brown parents.
Right.
Okay, I mean, listen to don't disrespect what they have to say. It's their loss. And so I do think that
the stepfather said, hey, burn this blank down. That's what the stepfather yelled after the grand jury decision was released. So not everybody in the Brown family was urging calm.
Yeah, but again,
of course, you had people like Al Sharpton saying, hey, this fight is not over. Even Obama said, oh, there are all kind of problems in the process, and he asked for calm, and of course the protesters didn't listen. They weren't calm. They were burning and looting and creating mayhem there, and using it as an opportunity to destroy businesses in their own community, putting people out of work, putting business owners maybe, who knows, on the unemployment line. I mean, I don't know what business owner would want to rebuild there after that kind of destruction. So, yeah, I mean, I guess you could point to how the administration handled it and praise it. I don't. I think they've had missteps the whole way. I think Eric Holder going down there and inserting himself into this. He took sides, Steve. I don't think he should have gotten involved in the early stages of this whole process. He met with the Brown family. He didn't meet with Officer Wilson. He didn't meet with the Wilson family. I think he took sides in this thing. And I think that's what Obama's been doing from the very beginning. Professor Gates, Trayvon Martin, now this incident. People don't see Barack Obama as representing everybody, as being a president of all the people. He's a president of the blue states. He's a president of the super liberals. He's a president of people that are agitating. He just doesn't come across as, to me, any kind of a leader that you can have trust in, faith in, you can look up to. And I think he blew it here like he's blown it everything else that he's done since he's become president. I really do.
Getting back to Ferguson, I didn't hear the stepfather say anything like that, and so if he did, I think that's then I think that's insightful, and so I think that you need to look at what he said and who he is. I mean, I think it's a shame, but that's not who Obama was. But Obama wasn't referring to him, to my knowledge. Obama was referring to the Brown family, to the parents, and I don't think that he was referring to him. I don't even know if he knew that's what the guy said. So I'm not familiar with that. I know what Obama did say on TV, and I don't think he was referring to him. And the other thing is that what you want is, I think, Obama to represent you. And Obama is trying to represent all the people. He's made a lot of mistakes in doing that.
He does. He does a very poor job of that. A very poor job. And just look at Louisiana. We're a red state. How often does he come down here? How often has he been to Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia? How often does he visit those states? A lot of support. How could he build support? He doesn't. He's never really shown any interest.
Well, look, I think from the very beginning, I think from the very beginning, a black man who has liberal tendencies is not going to be accepted by, people who disagree, with him, and maybe his
I think he could have
beliefs.
done better if he had more communication, more outreach, more interest. Wasn't as partisan, divisive. I mean, yeah, I think he could have done better than he has been doing, and had better numbers. I mean, he's not. He doesn't show any. Look at after the election. Has he met with Republicans? No. Has he reached out across the aisle? No. Has he tried to compromise? No. He's gone further to the left. He got rid of his one Republican in his national security team. Steve, he's the anti-Clinton president. He doesn't learn from elections. He's not a leader. I mean, he's extremely partisan, extremely divisive, and that's why I think the history books will record him.
I don't see any leaders on the other side. I'm sorry, I don't see any leaders on the other side, and you're right. I definitely believe that he needs to do a better job, okay, in bringing the country together. But the leaders I see, who are trying to make news, by being divisive and being recalcitrant, those people. I'm sorry,
Right.
This country is not going to work. This country is not going to work. Okay, I've been around for quite a while, unfortunately. I've seen a lot, and this country is really in bad shape. But it's in bad shape because of the extremes. Okay, that's why.
And I put Barack Obama on one of the extremes, Steve. Okay. I think he is on the far left extreme, and I think. You look at the Democratic Party, why has it had such trouble? It got smoked in the midterm election. There's no Democratic Party really in the South anymore, Steve. I mean, they've been destroyed, but they've done it to themselves.
I understand, and I can tell you this: 2 years from now, I think you're going to have a reverse. In terms, I do. But look, I would have wanted Obama to have been more, to the center. I think he has been, more to the left. But I think that the reaction to him has been repugnant, and so
it's not based on race, Steve. It's based on his ideology.
Yes, it's based on race and based on
a lot of hatred toward Carter, Clinton, other liberals by conservatives. They didn't like their policies. They didn't like their policies.
I think
if it was racism, you wouldn't have the same people embracing people like Dr. Ben Carson, people like Alan West. Racism's not involved in this.
I'm sorry. I don't agree with that.
I think totally disagree with you.
I think it's based on
what you're talking about.
Can I finish?
You don't know them. Go ahead.
Okay. I think race does play a role. Okay. And okay, you say it doesn't play any role at all. I think race plays a role. I think it has played a role. Okay. But to say that Obama lost the South because of race, no, that is not the case. Okay, but I do think it plays a role in everything that happens. Everything that happens. And
because
to say
he plays the race card completely.
And he's the only one who
plays the race card constantly. He's the one dealing the card from the bottom of the deck constantly, Steve. That's what he does. He specializes in that.
You and I are just going to have to disagree about this.
Let's agree to bring on a few calls here if we could.
You're saying that race plays no role at all. That's what you're saying.
I'm saying that if he were a conservative, if he were someone that were preaching the principles that we believed in, I think you'd have tremendous support for the guy. Just like he'd be celebrated like Dr. Ben Carson was at the ministry dinner that I went to in Baton Rouge. He had 1,000 people giving him a standing ovation, and I'd say maybe there were 2% black folks in there. I mean, I don't see the racism that the critics of Obama see. I see him as being disliked because of the way he's governed. I really do. But
I think that's true. I think that's true. But to say that race doesn't play any role at all, I think is really.
All right, we'll just disagree on that. Let's bring on Jim from Uptown. Hey, Jim, how are you? Good morning.
Hey, Jeff. Look, what's so funny to me is that when the race card works for them, it's fine. When it works against them, it's racist. Now, for all the white people who were center and to the right who voted for this president because they wanted to make history, if you remember, everybody's going to make history. We're going to vote for this black president who's going to do all these great things, and we trust him. This is what we get. And so now when we decide that his policies are poor and that he's a very divisive man, the only thing difference between him and Al Sharpton is a couple of years of education and a better suit. That's the only difference. He's an agitator, and he's all the things that you describe him as. He is the president to the agitators. He's the president to the divisive people, and that's what he does. He's not a president to everybody in this country. But now when the race is working against him, and the polls are working against him, now all these same people who voted for him, who are sick of him, are now racist. I mean, look, Sabludowsky, I don't know how you can stick your head in the sand.
I didn't say that. Wait, sir. I didn't say that. So I think maybe you ought to listen to this recording again.
Tell me where I'm wrong. Please
okay, go on.
Where I'm wrong.
I didn't say that, Jeff, and you know I didn't say that.
All right, Jim, any final comments before we roll on?
No, I just think that, I'd like Mr. Sabludowsky to tell me where I'm inaccurate or where I'm wrong in this, observation.
All right, my friend. Thank you. That's Jim from Uptown. 504-556-9696. Go ahead.
What I said was that race does play a factor. It plays in everything, just about every decision that we make as a country. Race plays a role. Sometimes it plays a big role. Sometimes it doesn't play. It doesn't play as big of a role. I likewise said, Mr. James or Jim, whatever your name is.
Jim.
Okay. I likewise said that I don't think that Obama lost the South. Okay, this last election, because of race. I think it played a factor, but I don't think I think it was a factor. But to say, like you said, Jeff, that it's no factor at all, I totally disagree with that. I'm sorry.
Well, listen, I talk to a lot of people that oppose him. I communicate with a lot of people who are Republicans and conservatives and Tea Party folks and moderates and independents, and I never sense that ever that race is a factor at all. And you say you see it. Sure. I don't.
Absolutely. I can
only report to you what I see and the people that I communicate.
Well, sure. No, of course, because
something that the liberals constantly throw out there and Obama's constantly throwing out there. I don't see it from the.
Of course, you're not going to see it
at all. Well, I mean, you would think if they were racist, they would be talking about their racism.
You're part of it.
I've never heard it. I never have, and that's why I say I think it's a phony argument. Let's go to Brett on the North Shore. Okay. Hey, Brett, how are you? Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Steve. I think that race plays a factor only as much as it also does in decisions made by the African American community and the Hispanic community. It's not predominant amongst the conservatives at all. You may have one or two, but that's it. But secondly, I want to bring up, how about the vitriolic hatred directed against George Bush during his presidency by the left, and how about the unbending push by the left to further all of their goals with no compromise whatsoever? So how can now we say that the voters want us to compromise when the left won't bend at all?
All right. I think that's a very interesting point. Steve, I was on the air when George W. Bush, throughout his presidency, I mean, he was hated, mocked, ridiculed, movies about assassinating him. I mean, there was nothing but hate toward him from the very beginning. So that's normally what happens. Reagan, they hated him. So, what's going on with Obama? They say, oh, it's race. I think a lot of it just happens to do with the differences of opinion, differences of philosophy. The political combat that we normally see in American politics.
Okay, let me ask you. Well, first of all, as I said before, I think that what is really crippling this country are the two extremes, and yeah, I saw exactly what the caller is referring to. I saw that, and I saw that the left was trying to take Bush down for everything. I certainly didn't agree with Bush on a lot of different things, okay? But, the type of rhetoric that was being used and the mockery that was being used, I thought was pathetic, and I believe it's pathetic. So, those are the kind of, if you have those kind of, extremisms that, that are dominant, then there's no way we're going to compromise.
All right, hang on.
And that is the thing that really concerns me.
All right, hang on. We got to wrap up this segment. We'll come back with one more. Take more of your calls. 504-556-9696. Jeff Crouere here. Steve Sabludowsky with us. It's ringside to be a GSO, and also Bayoubuzz.com. We'll be right back.
I'm JT Hannon. I want to tell you what I know about Public Service Commissioner Eric Skrmeta. I got to know Eric through my uncle, Archbishop Philip Hannon. My uncle was always a good judge of people, and he admired and respected Eric Skrmeta. We both came to know Eric as a family man who was highly principled, ethical, and trustworthy. One story stands out when I think of the relationship between Archbishop Hannon and Eric Skrmeta. When the Archbishop asked Eric to help with hurricane relief efforts in Honduras, over 1,000 miles away, Eric answered by helping thousands of people find safety and the start of a new life. Eric Skrmeta is a good man, a great father and husband, an honorable public servant, and he's been a terrific public service commissioner. I'm JT Hannon, and I hope you'll keep Eric Skrmeta fighting for us.
Under Commissioner Skrmeta, we now have the lowest utility rates in all of America. And that's why every independent organization has endorsed Eric Skrmeta for re-election.
Paid for by the Eric Skrmeta Campaign Fund.
The great reformer Martin Luther is credited with a story about two mountain goats who met, going in opposite directions, on a cliffside path only wide enough for one goat. A misstep would have sent one or both
into
the valley below.
We got a full call board, and I'm checking here all this email. Don't have time to get into any of it, though. Can we just try to squeeze in a few more quick calls?
Sure.
And by the way, I'm going to have a column for you today. I figured you're sending it out today, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I might be taking Friday off, though. So, but I'll
don't blame you. Okay.
Discover how God blesses humility on Route 66.
Route 66, driving the word home. Log on to Route66Life.com and get your roadmap for life. That's Route66Life.com. Route 66. Start your journey home today.
How's that hope and change working for you? That's what we were promised, and I don't know about you, but there's a lot of things I hope they change right away. If you don't agree, give Ringside Politics with a Punch a call right now. Call Jeff Crouere at 556-9696.
All right, limited time, full call board. We'll try to squeeze in as many as we can. Steve Sabludowsky with us, Jeff Crouere here. And let's go to Phil the Patriot, who's with us on the Patriot Mobile. Hey, Phil, how are you? Good morning.
Hey, listen, since I'm pulled over, I'm not breaking up, but listen up. I had a nightmare last night. They had at least a dozen channels on that were showing Barack Obama's zombie apocalypse. They were burning down buildings. They were doing all kinds of evil, terrible things. I mean, there were guns, shots fired, all of this stuff. These people committing all kinds of terrorist, terrible attacks. Just like I said yesterday, a domestic attack that's being orchestrated by a stealth operative called Barack Obama and his ilk. This is not happening by accident. They're doing this deliberately to try to drive us into a martial law situation. It's working with Operation Mexican Invasion, Operation Planned Parenthood, Operation Executive Order, and all the other ones. This is not happening by accident. Prepare yourselves. Get ready. Yeah!
That's Phil the Patriot. Paul joins us from Kenner. Paul, welcome aboard. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Jeff. I, in a sense, agree with you in the sense that there is little prejudice, I think, on the part of the white population against blacks. It's obvious, though, that Ferguson, Missouri would never have been heard of. I never heard of the town. And it would have been on the news had that man not been black that got shot. Now,
right.
That to me, it's a prejudice that the people feel they're being focused on. The black feels like, well, he was a target for a bullet because he was black. And here in New Orleans, we just had a celebration for the Planned Parenthood being in this city, and the councilwoman Cantrell making a statement about how wonderful and health care is provided to the poor. And I understand she's a black woman, and if the blacks would understand that they're targeted at the abortion clinic, and I say targeted because probably 2/3 of the people going into that abortion clinic are black. And what's the population of blacks in the city? They are killing their unborn children at a unbelievable rate.
Yeah.
And their population is dropping. They're not the second largest population anymore in the country. And if they were looking for somebody to look, prejudiced against the blacks, there they are, right there, Planned Parenthood. Yet here's this Councilwoman Cantrell
praising.
praises.
Yeah, that's a total shame. That's my view, at least. All right, thank you, Paul. Good to hear from you. We're going to try to squeeze in everybody, give them a chance to make a comment. Mike is with us from Gretna. Hey, Mike, how are you? Good morning.
Hey, good morning, and good morning, Steve. Listen, Steve, I've got a news flash for you. There's not only white racism in this country, there's also black racism in this country. And the coward-in-chief, Eric Holder, who challenged America to have a dialogue, but he said he didn't challenge us, he insulted us and said we're cowards and that we don't want to have a dialogue. Well, his idea of a dialogue is whites sit down while he stands up and lectures us about what's wrong with white people, and then that's not a dialogue, pal. That's called a monologue, okay? It's sort of like when your wife tells you we got to have a talk. You know as well as I do, you ain't getting a word in edgewise. But be that as it may, I just want to ask you one question, Steve. If I were running for dog catcher in your county, your parish, wherever it is that you live, your community, I just ask you this. If David Duke were a good friend of mine, I don't think you'd vote for me, Steve. And you'd say, Mike, because that guy's an anti-Semite, he's a racist, he's a dog, he's this and that and the other. And you'd be right 100% on all of that. But I'm going to ask you this. This so-called unifier who sat in the pew with the anti-Semitic, white, the racist Jeremiah Wright, whose close confidant and friend and associate of Barack Obama's was Louis Farrakhan, who after Ahmadinejad is the biggest anti-Semite on the face of the planet and one of the biggest racists on the face of the planet, yet he was voted president. He was elected president.
All right, I want to give Steve a chance to respond because we're out of time here, Mike. Thanks for the call. Steve, you got 30 seconds. Go ahead.
One, I think that his comment about there being black racists, absolutely. And I've always felt that Sharpton, Reverend Sharpton, whatever, however you want to describe him, I think he's an incredible racist. I think that you can promote the black cause without doing what he does.
Gotcha,
and
my
I think
friend.
he's
With
an
that,
opportunist.
thank you very much. Thanks to everyone who joined us today. Have a great day. We're going to be back with you after the holiday. Enjoy Thanksgiving. Coming up next, it's Eric Asher for Inside New Orleans right here on WGSO New Orleans.